Nearly 35 years, that's been the case. Women are more likely than men to vote Democratic. But Republicans desperately want to change this dynamic. And so this year, Republican congressional candidates went on the air early with ads like this one.
Disturbing reports of sexual assaults in the military. A Marine, Mike Kaufman, took action.
Kaufman is a Republican congressman from Colorado, considered by some to be the most vulnerable incumbent in the House.
And Kaufman bucked his own party to help pass the Violence Against Women Act.
And it's not a coincidence. This was the ad his campaign picked to open the season. A lot of Republican candidates went up early with ads painting themselves as strong on so-called women's issues. Andrea Bozak is with the National Republican Congressional Committee.
We encouraged members to have their first ad be a positive ad geared towards women voters to pre-inoculate themselves from these sorts of attacks that we know are coming their way.
Like a vaccine. In recent past elections, Republican candidates have struggled with how to talk about things like birth control and rape. For almost 2 years now, Bozak says establishment Republicans have been holding strategy sessions.
The fact that we're up early, we're not waiting for there to be a problem, is strikingly different from 2012.
One of the more creative ads in this vein comes from Republican Stuart Mills, who is running for the House from Minnesota. His wife, Heather, narrates.
In the Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event, my husband puts on pink heels to raise money for victims of domestic violence.
John Downs with FP1 Strategies produced the ad.
We're anticipating that they're going to run this false war on women campaign, and our goal is for people to see that and know something about who Stuart is, the real Stuart Mills, and to dismiss those outside attacks.
But in at least one case, the strategy got ahead of the congressman's voting record.
Our Congressman Steve is advocating for things like Violence Against Women Act.
Except that last year, Florida Representative Steve Sutherland joined the majority of House Republicans in voting against the version of the act that became law, opening himself to charges of dishonesty.
His ad is troubling.
Democratic strategist Stephanie Cutter.
It's not about what ads that you run, it's about what policies that you stand for.
And as evidence of how important the women's vote is, we can expect this fight to keep getting relitigated for the next 2 months and the next 2 years. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
Now, politics with our Friday regulars, columnists David Brooks of the New York Times and E.J. Dionne of the Washington Post and the Brookings Institution. Good to see you both.
Good to see you with you.
And let's start with what Tam was just reporting on. E.J., is the gender gap something that's likely to fade away, or do you think the difference between Democrats and Republicans with women votes could determine the outcomes this November?
The Democrats have needed a substantial margin among women ever since 1980, when the gender gap first started appearing. I think the most striking thing that's happened is that so-called women's issues are now, to a remarkable degree, economic issues. I think you heard that in the Hillary Clinton clip. There was a lot of talk in 2008 about her breaking the glass ceiling. What she said this time, she was talking about lower-income women. It feels to them as though the floor has collapsed beneath their feet. And the issues that are being talked about, child care, family leave, equal pay for equal work, minimum wage increases, are all about economics. And that's because the gender gap is especially important in the election among less well-off women. Yes, abortion and contraception are issues in some races like Colorado, but I think it's now about economics, which presents the Republicans with very particular challenges.
David, what do you think?
I don't see the challenges. If you look at the New York Times CBS poll this week, women are even. half are Republican, half are Democrat. Democrats have no advantage, which is unusual. And so Republicans